Hi everyone, my name is Fiona Lee Jones and I'm here today with Shaman and angel therapist Sarah Hall. Sarah Hall, thank you so much for joining us today from Michigan. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me today. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's warm and sunny here in California, so I'm happy about that.
Yeah, that's good. I'm missing that just about now. There's still a little snow on the ground out there, but
Oh,
it's
oh,
starting to melt.
okay. So Sarah, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yes. So I do spiritual teaching and coaching. I work with primarily angels and people's spirit guides to give them messages of healing, to help them balance all areas of life, helping to heal, especially the emotions. The mind, so that we can bring about all of the unlimited possibilities of the soul and experience living our best life. Um, so that is my work. That's what I love to do.
Wow, awesome. So what led you to your life's purpose, to explore a more spiritual, kind of spirit connected world?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, well, I was always interested in spirituality from a very, very young age. I had a lot of experiences in childhood and in my teen years and early adulthood, where I had experiences that you could say were kind of supernatural or kind of extrasensory experiences. I could see auras, for example. I had a few experiences with angels. I had a few experiences where I would find that I would be able to intuitively read someone without having set the intention to do so or without meaning to do so. So having experiences like this, I think, leads a person to questions and wanting to know a little bit more about what all of that is. And so that's where I really just delved into a whirlwind of study and a whirlwind of just diving deeper into my own spiritual practice to see those gifts develop or to learn a little bit more about them on my path. And the more I engaged with spirit, the more I realized that it felt very important to share the love, the healing, and the messages that I was receiving. And it became a real passion, to share that. So I guess it's a collective of a lot of different experiences over time that just kept nudging me back to, spiritual exploration and healing and discovery, and then a passion to share it. Yeah.
Wow, amazing. So it wasn't really a specific age or event that happened, but it was just kind of a collective experiences that just kind of confirmed like this is what you wanted to do.
Yes, absolutely. And many experiences. I feel like life has gifted me many, many, many different experiences that have affirmed my beliefs. For example, my first experience with angels, my first couple of experiences with angels were very affirming in that way. For example, one of the first ones was after an experience that I had had in which my psychic gifts were, I think, a little bit too open. And I was very undiscerning about what energies to connect with and what energies not to connect with. And in that, I ended up connecting with some energies that were oftentimes a little confusing and maybe lower kind of energies. So I learned, very synchronistically from a friend who is actually very, very religious, who said, call on the angels. That's their job, is to clear that stuff away. So, when I did, first of all, it miraculously cleared away all that, lower stuff. But also I was able to see Archangel Michael, standing right there before me. And I mean, that was a very like, whoa, wide opening, mind opening kind of experience that really, really uplifted me. And I would say another really, and again, I feel like life has offered me so many of these, but I'll just describe one other one that I think was a really big anchor on the spiritual path. Was when my mom was dying of cancer. I was her caregiver. I was kind of like the primary person that was giving care to her while she was under hospice care, and she was living in my, my family home. I was actually living in California at the time and moved back home to Michigan so that I could spend more time with her and be with her and give her care. And throughout that experience, I really credit my connecting with the angels, my practice of doing things like meditation and energy work, to how smoothly I would say that experience went. Although smoothly is a word that doesn't really begin to, I guess, encapsulate what the experience was like, because dying is an experience that is full of lots of twists and turns. And as you might imagine, it's difficult both physically and emotionally, and it brings up big spiritual questions for people. It causes people to go in and journey. And so, that was happening for me, but I was also witnessing everyone in my mom's life coming to her and visiting her and doing the same thing. Friends and family, kind of coming forward and dealing with, stages of grief and stages of questioning. And for me, the spiritual guidance that I received through that time was such a rock of strength, because I had a really unshakable sense of faith during that time, that everything was going to be absolutely fine and that she wasn't going to be gone or leaving, that, dying is really almost to integrate with the hearts of every single person that you are close to. And in a way, you're almost a little bit closer to those people than before, although the living don't experience it that way all the time. There was a lot of grace that came through that, a lot of major challenges for sure, but immense faith boosting experiences of grace. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful to kind of be with someone and to see that transitioning is something that's really beautiful. It's the most beautiful human rite of passage that we have as human beings. Probably one of the most beautiful, incredible, ecstatic, wonderful feeling things that we can do is to go home. And I felt as if I was able to feel a little bit of maybe a fraction of what my mom went through when she passed. And if I felt just a fraction of it, then gosh, it must be amazing to have the whole full-blown experience, because it was blissful. Yes, there was, the sadness and the realization that, okay, the moment that we'd been waiting for months and months and months and months, and dreading and having all these different, emotions piling up on, has finally happened. And wow, it's finally happened. Oh my gosh. But at the same time, the level of serenity and peace and actually ecstatic joy, and the feeling of oneness was amazing. So I knew that experience was also one that I wanted to share, that I felt passionate about sharing with people, because when we grieve, it does not have to be from a place that is full of the experience of loss. It can be with a knowingness that they're going somewhere where we too are going to go someday. And yes, they are integrated with you now in a way that you could think of as almost closer to you than before. So a lot of things have made me feel so passionate about sharing spiritually. And that, I guess that's another one of them.
Oh, wow. Yeah, because there's so much, I feel like a lot of people have so much fear around death and losing a loved one. So it's almost like people are not looking forward to that part of their life where they have to let go. Or they'll see, when someone's dying or in a, retirement home, it's like they don't want to even go there. There's a lot of fear there.
Exactly. That's such a thing, especially in our present culture. There have been many previous cultures that really integrate the experience of death into life. For example, the elderly live with their children and their grandchildren. You watch the experience of that transition happening. Now, as you said, we tend to, put our loved ones into, nursing homes and, things like that, where we aren't, directly part of it. And not that that's like, a bad thing, or you're bad if you're doing that. That's just, your choice. But it can be valuable to make ourselves more a part of the dying experience, because literally it's something that every one of us is going to experience in many ways. We're going to experience people that we love dying throughout our entire lives. And we're going to ourselves, prepare to die someday. And again, to see it as an experience that we can embrace, I think is incredibly uplifting and very, very healing. It prepares us well, I suppose. Yeah.
Well, I've realized that because I actually had two friends that passed away this year, and it's given me so much energy to create stuff. I feel like it's just been this this calling, or this this bursting of energy of like I have to create some music, or it's like almost like it's changed my direction in life.
Yes.
I don't know if is that something to expect, or
Yes.
it's part of.
I love that because it's true. I think that when someone close to us passes away, we experience something very, very powerful and very, very special on many levels of being. So it's not only the experience of physically having to get used to that presence not being there, not being able to pick up the phone and call them and talk to them and that sort of thing. We also share energy. I believe that all people have a shared energy all across the entire world. Every human being is connected, but we are the most connected to the people that are most immediately in our circle. So when a close friend or close family member passes away, the part of you that was in them, that was used to exchanging and flowing in that energetic network with them, now must find a new way to connect with the rest of life, and also to continue to connect with that person, because again, they stay connected with us. It's just that now they're not relating to us in the same way that they did in this form in the physical world. They're relating to us from God, from that home place that we all originate from. And I believe that many people do have bouts of deep creativity, soul searching, or revelations and things like that, right along with the tough stuff of grief, which is not to be, swept under the rug either. But those, inspirational moments, or those kind of golden moments of like just openness and, feeling God, I suppose, when you're connected to those loved ones, is also a natural part. It's their way, in a way, of communicating with you now from source, and you're communicating with yourself in that way too, because we all come from that place. We're connecting with a higher partial of our own soul. We're remembering the God self in a way. We're remembering home. So yeah, getting inspired and letting inspiration and creativity and artwork or writing or whatever it might be, maybe even relating with a relationship that you have in your life very differently now based on the new perspective. All of that doing is such an incredibly good way of processing the experience of grief and loss, and letting it transform you, which is what it is here to do. It's what it should do, is change you forever. I always tell people, surrender into it, accept that part of it. It's not that I'm trying to get my life back to the way that it was before, and anything like that. It's surrender to what it is bringing you. It's part of the experience.
Wow, that was incredibly validating. Thank you for that. So if you consider we're all kind of coming from this godly place, and then we're here on planet Earth, what is our purpose here for a short while before we return?
Yes. So I always like to say that there's an inner purpose that all of us have, and it's the same purpose for every single human being. You've got the exact same life purpose as every other person on the planet. All 7 billion people have the same inner purpose. And then we also have kind of like what I sometimes describe as an outer purpose. The inner purpose is essentially to be in a state of love to the best of our ability. Love that is unhindered by ego, by fear, by separation, by limited thinking, by blockages, and that sort of thing. We all undergo the same sort of journey of the wounded healer, which is an archetype that is kind of used to describe the human journey. And through that journey, we're here hopefully to expand our soul, to expand our capacity to love and to be held in kind of a state of faith, or held in a state of oneness, with God, while in this human body, while, shouldering the wound or the burden that is, ego and all these illusions of separation and difficulty and things like this. So we all have that, and we're all doing our own little version of that, little piece by piece kind of thing. And the outer purpose is oftentimes the way in which your inner purpose can then reflect on the collective. So for some people, that's, my outer purpose is raising my children. And because of the work that I'm doing on myself and the beliefs and the things that I change within me, or the healing that I do within me, I treat them differently, or I teach them certain things. And that's part of my purpose, because I'm reflecting into the outer world. Other people, such as yourself, you're a musician, and you are meant to reflect what's going on with this inner purpose, this inner transformation, inner changing perspective in a piece of beautiful music, or other artists in their artwork or their writing or whatever it is that they do, so that when other people access that work of art, they're also accessing your truth. They're also being given the gift of an instantaneous, almost download of energy from all that you have journeyed through and experienced. So we're all shamans. Every single one of us are shamans in a way, because what we're doing for ourselves with our inner purpose, we're also doing for the whole world, both with our inner purpose and with our outer purpose. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I really love that idea as well. And I'm wondering, what is your opinion on why hasn't humanity made this kind of like the center of our focus? Why have we been focusing on all the fear and the hatred, and how did we get off track, and why do you think it's gone in that direction?
Yeah. So why we're focusing on all of that other stuff now, instead of all the, maybe just being in a place of love stuff. The first part of the answer to that is that it's just the part of the journey that we're in, or this is the time that we're in. So we're progressing how we're progressing. And right now we have a overall collective sort of inheritance. It's like when we're born, we inherit what's happening in the collective. And if in the collective there is war, or there is hunger, or there is, mistreatment and things like this, then those things also exist in a part of you. No matter how happy, how well, how healed, how fulfilled you are, there's always going to be a little bit more to heal, as long as there's something out there in the collective, to heal. Which doesn't mean that we can't enjoy our lives. It doesn't mean that we can't have a life that is incredibly beautiful and fulfilling and full of, love and goodness. It's just that, it seems to be taking time, to get to a place where we can have a kind of a critical mass, where when we inherit the world, it's maybe not such a large amount of that suffering and difficulty, but maybe there's just as much, if not more, of love. The funny thing is I'm feeling angels coming in for this one, and they're saying from their perspective, there is just as much, if not more, of the love stuff here. It's just that when we see the fear stuff come up, it gets a lot of attention. And the ego also loves to blow that stuff up and make it bigger and seem like it holds more real estate than it really, really does. But the angels are saying from their perspective, we've never been in a more peaceful, loving, more open place, where we are in such a great state of potential to have more people than ever before enter a state of wellness, to have a lifetime of overall kind of well-being and happiness. So the more we focus on that, I think the better we are. Whereas the more we tell ourselves the story that, gosh, the world is really, really messed up, that gets us focusing on that and attached to that in a way that's not always so useful. So, I think that, yeah, it's sort of a matter of saying, well, humanity is where it is. Ego exists. We live in a world of duality. So where we perceive light, where we perceive, goodness and happiness and all of that, we also at the same time then perceive dark. In this world, the night follows the day, and that's just the normal cycle of things. We don't necessarily have to judge them, I guess, as, good or bad, or like, what's happening to us as humanity right now. It's sort of like I get more of a calling to think of it as it is what it is. Humanity's suffering is what it is. and I'm here to focus on my stuff first, because in healing the self first, you're doing the best thing that you can to heal, the collective. So yeah, I think that hopefully we'll be headed in a direction where we're, where we'll transcend all that. Does that happen in our lifetimes? I don't know. And gosh, I mean, the lower self that me kind of says probably not. Maybe it'll be generations and generations and generations, or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll happen tomorrow. But the most important thing is being where we are right here, right now, and just holding love for ourselves now in the simple little things.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you mentioned your angels, and I'm curious, do you channel the angels, or do they speak to you telepathically? How is that relationship or that dynamic work?
Yes. So I have developed an intuitive relationship with the angels, such that, yes, when we think of channeling, a lot of people think of it's just the words of the angels, completely coming through that person, or the words of a spirit completely coming through, where there's actually kind of channeling called full body channeling, where people will talk in a completely different voice, and their mannerisms are different, and their speech patterns are different. It's just that spirit talking, supposedly. And there is also a form of channeling where you might write and do that same thing, but there's still a sense of I'm here, and then there's this other thing, and I'm letting it write through me. I channel them in that I intuitively receive their messages and then I say them to you, but it's more like a game of telephone where I intuitively receive little hits, little thoughts, sometimes words that I can hear, images that I can see, different things like that, and then I interpret them, or I say what I hear from that energy. And all of us have the ability to do it. Every single one of us, I don't care who you are and what you think your limitations are, every single person has the equal capacity to do that. It's just that I practiced doing it for some years so I can get stronger at it. And, so I do it regularly. Yeah.
Right. So do they work with certain energies or certain aspects of your life? Do they kind of help you with kind of a general everything, or are there certain angels that help you with certain things?
Yeah, that's a great question. So angels help with every single area of life, big or small. So I always like to tell people, don't ever worry that it's possible to um, distract the angels from something more important. I mean, it doesn't matter what it is. If it's important to you, or even if it's just slightly important to you, you can call on the angels for it and they will help you. They are not limited by time and space and things like this. So they can be with all of us simultaneously without their focus being divided at all. They're a higher form of consciousness, if you want to think of it that way. So yeah, they'll help us with everything. And yes, there are certain kinds of angels that can specialize in different kinds of things. And it's actually almost more helpful for us as human beings to identify the differences between different types of angels than it is for them, because they do what they do. But for us, so that we can identify, there's an angel I can call on for protection, or there's an angel I can call on to help me with forgiveness, and I have a name for that angel. That helps us to focus and helps us to think of them and to really draw that angel or that energy in more strongly. So Archangel Michael, for example, is the angel of protection, or for forgiveness, I like to go to Archangel Zadkiel or Jeremiah. So there are tons of different angels you can kind of learn about, but even if you don't know all of them, so if you're watching all this and you're thinking, I don't know which angel to call in for what, just call in angels. Just say, hey, angels, I need help with my love life, or with my finances, or with my career, or whatever it might be. They'll send you exactly who you need. You'll get a divine assigned guide, helper for that particular issue. And if you want to know their name, or you want to hear a little bit more about getting a personal relationship with that angel, meditate. Set the intention that you want to hear their name, or you want to hear a direct message from them, and then get still, get meditative, and oftentimes that will help you to receive the name or something more specific to connect with them further.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned earlier about bringing in, you were kind of open to a lot of different energies. And is there a way that you're supposed to discern working with certain angels? Can there be energies that could be harmful out there? how does one protect yourself if you're just say like an open channel and really sensitive to all of that?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love this question. That's such a good question because that's not something everybody considers, and it's important to consider because your spiritual gifts are kind of like I often describe them as like a radio, where a radio can pick up on a lot of different stations. It can pick up on all different kinds of frequencies. And you know, you might not want to listen to every radio station. You might really want the classical station and not want the metal station, and you know, whatever. Maybe you want the metal station, you don't want the classical station. Whatever your preference is, you got to be able to discern between the different kinds of energy so that you get the energy that you want, the kind that makes you feel good, that you trust, that is, you know, supportive. Now let's go back to the one other little thing that we talked about before when we talked about duality. So when we're talking about, you know, suffering and why do we come into this whole mess and what's the whole point of doing this? We live in a paradigm of duality. So where there are spiritual beings or non-physical beings that you can experience who are full of love and full of light, there are also spiritual entities that exist that are the opposite of that, that are really, you know, we don't need to kind of give them power by thinking, oh, you know, they're scary and they're bad and they could do us harm and that kind of thing. It's more just, we've got extremely conscious beings like the angels who are hyper aware, extremely conscious. And if you're extremely conscious, you come with love. Consciousness is born out of a state of love. So the more conscious you are, the more connected to love you are. If we go down the scale and we look at maybe what's at the opposite end of the spectrum from that, we'd probably see a very unconscious, you know, type of entity, I guess, something that might just be there to, you know, consume other energies and is very unaware of itself, or is very, you know, kind of reactionary. So where the angels, if they're so conscious that they're aware of so much, they're also able to use free will in a really amazing way, as are we as human beings. We're able to use our will in a very, very powerful way. So if we get angry at something, we can choose not to hit or punch. We can choose instead to take a deep breath, to forgive and to find a different way to react to it. If you're in this lower state, it's possible that you might be so unconscious that it's more the knee-jerk reactions. It's like not so much a state of free will, but a state of really reactionary existences. So I describe it, the spectrum, that way so that people don't think, oh, the angels are like, you know, benevolent and they'll help me, which of course, yes, they are. That's 100% true. But then there's these other things that are out there to get me and make everything, you know, terrible and da-da-da-da. Don't think of it that way. Don't give it power. Don't think of it as something that could ever interfere with you. It's just something that might maybe make it a little bit more confusing because it's an energy that is not so conscious. And guess what? We've got the capacity for that in our own human body. So if you're looking to understand it a little bit more, just think of, you know, I am my own perfect example of this. If I have the ability to be, you know, an angry bitch, or, you know, a really, really nice, happy, helpful saint, then there's going to be a wide spectrum of all the different kinds of emotions and feelings and things that I can focus on within me too. So don't worry about, you know, again, giving power to anything negative that's out there. It's not useful even to resonate on that level. And if you have spiritual gifts, you don't ever have to pick up on that stuff, because when you're tuned into the radio station that is light and love and angels, 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 then you're not tuned into any other radio station. And the way that I like to put it in my intentions and tell people who are opening their spiritual gifts for the first time is, set that intention. Call on Archangel Michael, for example, and say, angels, be my bouncer. Let me be tuned into only the frequencies that are light, that are love, that are helpful to me, that makes sense for me to be connected to. I think that some people go into their spiritual gifts thinking like, oh, it's so intriguing and interesting to like pull out the seance, you know, stuff and try to talk to a dead person or, you know, whatever. You know, and mediumship is cool too. You can talk to your dead people. That's a permissible thing. It feels a lot different than talking to the angels, because talking to the people on the other side is just like talking to people who are alive. They've all got their own opinions and their own kind of emotions and feelings and ways of living, or ways of being, kind of thing. But yeah, it is safe. It is good to connect with higher beings and just tune your radio station directly and firmly to that one dial of light, love, all that is guided in things that are comfortable for you, and you never have any to worry about.
Okay. So yeah, I did have I guess when I was really young, when I was 7 years old, my first kind of introduction to the spirit realm was my dad showing me The Exorcist or The Omen. So I got a really, fearful idea of these other kind of beings that were out there. So what advice would you have for anyone who has a lot of fear towards, I guess, the less conscious beings out there?
Yes, here's the best piece of guidance you'll ever get for that. Pay them no attention. Just pay them no attention, act like it doesn't exist, and it won't for you. Because to resonate at a level that says, okay, my radio station is only at the frequency of light and love, makes it so that it's almost like you don't even exist on the same plane as those beings. It's almost like you might as well disappear and not exist at all, not exist in the same frequency at all as them. You might never pick up on it. And it's the same reason why it's so different, varying between people. So like, I think like we probably all heard like ghost stories and stuff like that growing up. But a lot of times there'll be like one person that goes into the haunted house in the story and they can feel the ghosts and they can sense that there's something up. But then the skeptical friend is like, what are you talking about? This is just a dark room with like, I mean, that person, their frequency spectrum is not tuned into that. So they probably don't exist to that energy. That energy does not exist to them. They're not paying it any heed. Whereas the person that's giving it all that attention is also opening themselves to it. Also, just imagine too, the human ego. So what we would call, expressions or other spiritual entities, I guess, or energies out there that are, lower, not so savory feeling. It's just a manifestation of ego in a different form. And it's not so scary when you think, I've got an ego too, and it's capable of all kinds of things. I can be swearing up a storm in my mind, thinking all kinds of awful things when I've got road rage and blah, 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 whatever we do. But then I also have the capacity for love and oneness and goodness. And in the same way that you can avoid and steer yourself away from thinking negative thoughts and living in your ego in your own mind, and steer yourself towards, good, positive thoughts. Same thing with connecting with beings out in the spirit world that, while it might be really, really interesting to get the Ouija board to move, call on the angels first. There's no reason to ever need to pick up on energy like that. It's just not useful. It's, it's interesting at the slumber party, but it's not useful stuff. So shield yourself, call on the angels, focus only on, that, and never ever give those kind of things power. Because in effect, they don't. They have zero power. That's what the ego likes to do in our own mind too, doesn't it? It loves to, find some kind of painful belief or negative self-talk, and then it wants to gnaw on that like a bone over and over and over again and have you obsessed with that, because the ego wants real estate in your mind too. It wants a sense of like, yeah, I'm not gonna, expand beyond my whatevers. It resists change. It wants limitations. So it will try everything in its might to convince you, of limitations in your own head. So if you can pay those things in your head, your own little thoughts in your own head, no mind, you can do that with any other energies that are out there too, and keep really strong, beautifully impermeable boundaries energetically for all time. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for that advice. Yeah, I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah.
So how do you set the energy of your day to kind of just every day? What rituals do you have?
Oh my gosh, this is such a nice change of pace question. I like that. We've gone all over the spectrum, by the way. I love it. It's so great. So I guess I really like to wake up early. I know that this is probably different for every person out there, but for me, gosh, the early morning hours are magical. I just think that there's such a powerful time. It's like catching a wave if you're a surfer. If you're waking up right when the sun is starting to, kind of come up, you're like catching a wave of energy that you can ride into the rest of the day. So waking up early is really, really nice. And then since that's kind of a special consciousness first thing in the morning, it's like you're fresh out of the spirit world. When we dream, by the way, we spend time in the spirit world. We spend time balancing our energy spiritually and that sort of thing. And when you come out of it, you're freshly, just totally non-resistant to it. You're freshly still flowing with all of that good stuff. So I like to write first thing in the morning. to write or even meditate and then write, or write and then meditate, depends on how I feel. But doing something just to connect with creativity and to connect with spirit is my favorite way to start the day off. And then I also like to do something for, body movement. So like today, for example, I did Bikram yoga. After I did the early morning stuff, I did a Bikram yoga in like the mid part of the morning. And that felt really great. I just think that having something physical to do to remind you of your physical body, to balance and discipline the physical body, what you do to your physical body, you're going to do to your mind, and you're also going to do to your spirit. So if you want to feel stronger and more disciplined in your mind with the goal that you have, then do it to your body first. If you want to be more balanced and being able to manage your time, make more physical balance. Try standing on one foot and doing things like that. I swear it works. So I do something physical, and other than that, just kind of the regular stuff. Like I try to eat really healthy, so I'll do like a smoothie or something like that, and then kind of ease into starting my work day and that sort of thing. But I always like to start by acknowledging God, connecting with spirit, and connecting with myself really well through something physical. So yeah.
Awesome. And are there foods that you will eat that will help with the energy, or there's foods that you avoid?
Yeah, that's another really great question. And I think, again, it's one of those things that's different depending on the individual. There's a whole spectrum of who is going to respond the best to what kind of dietary thing. But for me, and this was such a shaping part of my spiritual path for so many years, I eat a vegan diet. I eat almost 100% organic now, which before, oh my gosh, I thought that would be like impossible. I was like, organic food is so expensive, and how am I ever going to do it? And it's not like I have like tons and tons of money to spend on organic food. It's just I've learned how to budget it more. I've like learned how to, buy the things that, work really well, and that kind of thing. But eating clean is huge for me, and it's huge for keeping my energy in a place where the work that I do is more manageable. I really believe that we pick up on the energy of the entire journey of our food. So, when we eat an animal, not to shame anybody that does eat meat, but when we eat an animal, you are picking up on the energy of their life experiences and their death experience. And if you're super, super sensitive to things, and I've known so many people who are like this, you'll feel it. You might not feel it as direct images of what the pig or the cow saw or whatever, but you might feel it as a haze or a sense of heaviness, or a sense almost like your windshield is clouded and you've got to do something to kind of like clear it, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of people that, follow a spiritual path who feel like they really want to not, have processed foods and animal products. Another reason I would say, which is, I think, relevant when we're talking about energy, for not including animal products, if this is something that anybody who's watching is considering thinking about, is that we respond really well to receiving energy straight from the source. So all of the energy that our physical body gets actually comes from the sun, right? The sun comes in and it fills, life and energy into the plants, and then the animals eat that, and then other animals eat the animals, and that's the web of life, right? Where do we fit in as human beings in that web of life? With my own beliefs, I kind of think we look a lot like gorillas. We're not tigers, we're gorillas. Our teeth are like the same as herbivores, and we just tend to do really well health-wise by eating like that, by eating closer to the light, a little bit closer to the source. So eating the vine-ripened fruit or vegetable gives you a really clear burst of energy. You feel really good and uplifted. Also, you're probably going to really set yourself up amazingly to avoid ever having any heart disease. You're setting yourself up really great for avoiding cancer and type 2 diabetes, and just a laundry list of all those other kinds of things that seem to plague us and our modern societies. But yeah, for all those reasons, and I feel like so many more, I choose to eat a plant-based diet that is organic for pretty much like 90% of the most part, and clean. So I try to stay away from chemicals and, all that kind of stuff. Definitely stay away from GMOs. It just feels better, and that's such a support.
I totally agree with all of that. I definitely notice when I eat raw, my smoothies and stuff like that, I can think a lot clearer, I have energy, versus when I eat like a heavy meal, I just feel like sleeping or just checking out. So my body lets me know what foods it wants.
Yes, you guys listen to your body. See, your body will tell you, and you start listening to your body and doing what it tells you to do, it will start to speak much louder to you. I found that, like, if you give your body what it wants, it'll be like, oh, okay, well then I can tell you about this other thing too, and you start to become more and more and more in tune with what your body feels, what it wants, what it needs to live its best. So definitely honor your body's messages, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So how do you balance being a spiritual being, being very conscious and functioning in a world of people who are maybe not as conscious or aware of their surroundings and their energy and the energy they're putting in their bodies? How do you kind of find a balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I find my personal balance by going back to a mindset of really accepting it and allowing all of the different contrasts and variations that there are in this world. I think that it's really important, especially for people who feel that they have stumbled upon, a lifestyle that is really emotionally, spiritually, and physically supportive and healthy for them, that they stay in a place of non-judgment. It's really important for protecting the integrity of what you do and for helping other people to potentially make a change too, to stay in a place of non-judgment. And I think that so many of us probably are familiar with this, because I think that we all know vegans, right? It's a big enough of a movement now that most of us at least know somebody who's, vegan or has tried veganism. And a lot of times vegans get a really bad rap because they judge a lot. They're always, trying to make you feel awful about yourself and that sort of thing. And I have never, as one that follows a completely plant-based diet myself, never taken that stance on it, because I've just seen the reactions in people that eat meat, or maybe would have or wanted to be open to finding different healthy ways of living, but then felt totally shut down by the immense negativity that was coming at them, or maybe felt like, it was it was too complicated and too hard of a switch to do, because they're being, pushed with all of the lifestyle things that people are saying. Oh, I did all of this complicated stuff to be, a vegan, and they think, oh my God, I'll never be able to get to that point. How I'll ever get to that point. So be in a complete place of non-judgment for other people. Accept them and allow them just as they are. And with that acceptance, I guess in my own life too, I kind of just come at it from a mindset that says, again, we live in this really dual plane of reality right now. It's not up to me to make it not dual. It's just, I'm just a person. I'm just a little citizen here. And I'm just going to say, all variations have to kind of exist. There are all different kinds of things here, and I accept that just as it is. And it's my job just to live my own, my own light, live based on what's going to make me, the happiest and the most fulfilled, and to allow everything else, to be. And that fulfills my own journey, I think. With wellness and spirituality, it really uplifts, my perspective of what's happening inside of me. And then I think that it also, I would hope would be more helpful for other people who want to learn about that kind of stuff, again, because they don't feel judged, controlled, or anything. Nobody ever wants to be judged or controlled or told what to do, ever. It's just against our nature as human beings. So, yeah.
So when we talk about, healers talking about saving the world, it's really more about the transforming your inner world.
Yes.
Or instead of like trying to save everyone and tell everyone, try to heal everyone, it's more of the inner transformation.
Yes. Oh my gosh, 100% totally. Because what you do to yourself, you're doing to the whole world. You are a proxy for the entire human race. And if you want to access the human race in the biggest way possible, do it by accessing yourself. If you go within yourself, you are your own doorway to the entire collective. You can access anything that there is in the entire collective of humanity by going within yourself, not necessarily by going outside of yourself. So finding discipline and stillness and peace and health and happiness and oneness and all these kinds of different experiences you can have within you, and then practicing that through the simplicity of your lifestyle every day for your whole life, that's probably the best change that you can make for the whole world. And I'll actually give you a great example of this. Kind of funny. I was thinking about this earlier when I was in my Bikram yoga class, which Bikram is really hard. I chose that kind of yoga just because it's really hard and it, challenges me a lot. I want to be challenged a lot because that pushes the limit of my discipline a lot. I was thinking like, oh my gosh, I remember when there was a time I started Bikram yoga maybe 10 years ago now. I can't believe it's been that long. And I took a several year break from doing Bikram. I was like, really doing any yoga. I did like a little bit here and there, and I kind of like would like walk or bike or whatever, but I was just kind of like, I already learned that yoga. I already did it. I kind of already like achieved what I needed to do. I got to a great level. I mean, I feel good. Like my body will always be flexible like that, right? My body will always be, aligned with my, my spine aligned, my joints functioning really well. I made a really great foundation kind of thing. 2 years later, no, it all went away. And I thought to myself just this morning, like, if we can pick, one spiritual practice that's really challenging for us and just do that our whole lives, it's probably one of the biggest differences you can make for the whole world. So practicing your meditation, where we're practicing real stillness, which is gonna be an immense challenge probably every day. There's going to be different things that come at you and different things that are moving through your mind every single day. Practice that for your whole life every day, and what a noble life that would have been if you can stay dedicated to a practice like that, or to your yoga, whatever kind it is. Doesn't have to be Bikram, of course. That's just one extreme, whatever that I'm kind of into right now. But doing something that practices your relationship with yourself and makes your relationship with yourself better or stronger. Do that your whole life, and you'll be making the most amazing difference that you can make for the entire world. You'll be guided as to the little things that you need to do outside of yourself. You'll be guided if you're supposed to share something with somebody. Always, of course, doing it without any attachment to whether or not they're going to do it. Don't ever be attached to learning someone else's spiritual lessons for them. That always ends in misery and conflict. You'll be guided. If you're meant to write a song or a poem or a book that will help the world, you'll do it, and that too will be your own inner experience. Just polish that inner diamond and don't focus on anything else, and that's where you're going to make the biggest difference in the world. The greatest artists in the world probably were all people that were really into their journey and their process as an artist. You think of people like Van Gogh or whatever, and it's like they ate, slept, and breathed their painting and the conceptualization of their technique and their color, and it was all completely interwoven into their emotions, their relationships, their life lessons, and all the different stuff. Guess what? We're all artists of our own lives, so we can all be that conscientious of our relationship with ourselves, such that it changes what we do to the outside world. So, yeah.
I recently read a book, Summer with the Leprechauns. I don't know if you've heard that. I don't remember who wrote it, but it was basically talking about the artists and how they're kind of, it's like they're not quite fully human, so they're still kind of functioning in this world. And, but yeah, they're here to share their gifts and their talents with us. So I have a final question. So what would you recommend for people just starting out with meditation to kind of, if there's a lot of distractions and stuff, how would you advise them?
Yes. Okay, that's such a good question, because I do think that meditation is a foundation, or like the backbone to any other spiritual practice or anything else you want to achieve with your path. To start, I would actually say make it as easy and pressure-free as possible. So if your idea of meditation is someone who's like zenned out for 2 hours at 4:30 a.m., like starting their day that way, and they're an amazing, perfect meditator, they have no thoughts going through their head whatsoever, let that go. And instead just try setting a timer on your phone for like 5 or 10 minutes, and just spend that time just breathing and beginning by observing the thoughts that you're having. The goal is not to try to force your thoughts to stop, because in doing that, then you're really going to get yourself into a state of attachment where you're really attached to like trying to make something happen. Instead of trying to make something happen or attaching to anything overall as to what you think the outcome needs to be, just spend those 5 minutes until that timer goes off on your phone, reminding yourself to come back to a place where you're breathing and observing. And it's okay if you think about your grocery list, if you think about all the things you have to do throughout the day. It's okay if those things come into your head. Let them become the river that is coursing in front of you. And rather than diving in and letting the current carry you downstream to all the different distractions because you're attached to the thoughts now, sit on the side of the river, sit on the riverbank, and just watch them flow by. And the way that we do that, I like to remind myself I'm allowing this thought. Because if I notice a part of me attaching to it and analyzing or thinking or anything like that, just I remind myself, no, come back to my center, be still. And I allow that to be. I let it be. I allow it to be. And then you'll notice that the thoughts or the feelings just start to whoosh past you. And you're sitting on the riverbank and you're watching the river go by. And it becomes very, very still. And even if just being in a still place for a second, a split second of real pure being, is like the drop of water that sated you for years and years to come, kind of thing. There's some kind of passage in the Bible that says something about the drop of water on the tongue when your mouth is really parched, and I totally forget what it is right now, but it sort of reminds me of that meditation. It's like just a little drop of stillness goes such a long way, and you'll see it, you'll feel it when you start doing it. So just dive in. Again, don't pressure yourself. Don't have any attachments to it needing to be, like oming out for 2 full hours or anything like that. Just make it simple, make it easy. And hey, if you want to be able to meditate for, an hour or 2 hours, build yourself up to getting there. You can do that too. That's totally cool. That's attainable. You can get there. Just build yourself up to it, and don't force it. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for your depth and your thoughtfulness and all your answers and your guidance that you've shared with us today. I just want to say that I love your meditations. And so, especially if you're starting out meditating, I highly recommend Sarah Hall's meditations on YouTube. And they help me get through my day. So just thank you so much for that. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to hopefully collaborating with you musically for one of your meditations. I think that would be awesome.
Yes, absolutely. We will be. And thank you so much, Fiona, for having me. It's been an amazing conversation. You are a bright, shining light, and it was awesome to connect with you today. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Hopefully we'll be in touch. We'll be in touch later.
Yay.
Okay. All right. See you later.